Hello shell buddies and welcome back to the Echoue Bijoux channel. As you know, we did some shell chasing this summer. Now we're going to have fun with some of these shells. I went to the East Coast recently and met up with Roxann from Florida Beach Walks, who sent me home with a really cool bag of stuff. If you missed that, you're going to get to see what it is she sent me and what it is that I do with it. Make this gorgeous shadow box that lights up with our East Coast finds and gifts. Let's go! So wow, some really cool stuff, Roxann. Thank you so much. In case you missed this part of this series, the shell chasing series, we met up with Roxann from Florida Beach Walks when we went to Ponte Vedra to Michler's Landing, and she sent me home with a gorgeous bag of East Coast goodness. So, oh my goodness, look at this huge and heavy bag of stuff Roxann sent me home with. Wow, this is fantastic. Let's see what's inside. Ooh. Smell it. Oh my goodness. Wow. Look at this bag. Oh my gosh. Lion's paws and pieces. Oh, I have the coolest idea in mind for these. Oh yeah, there's gonna be some artwork coming up with these, but man, oh man, look at these things. They're beautiful. Look at that. I love it. I love its weird discoloration. I love everything about that. Very compelling. And look at this one. Oh man, light would go through that. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go full on crazy with crafting some of this stuff. So wow, some really cool stuff, Roxann. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to play with some of this stuff. Oh, Roxann, this is beautiful. It's so awesome. I cannot wait to play with these things. I can't wait to see what you make playing with stuff I sent you. Oh, this is just too cool. Thumbs up. Awesome. You're the best, girl. And I love it. Once I got home, I sent her a box of some goodies from the West Coast too, and the both of us have gotten a little creative and crafty with our stuff. Roxann just showed a video where she had these gorgeous flowers I showed her how to make, and if you want to see the video how to do that, check up here for a link to the Mother's Day video, because I go through like 5 or 6 different kinds of flowers, like how to do them. So just check up here for the link. Anyway, Roxann posted some really beautiful candles that she had made by topping them on the lids with some really cute little flowers. So naturally, I have to make something with the stuff that she sent home with us as well. And today we're going to tackle a lighted shadow box, and we're going to use a cutting machine to decorate the front of the glass so that you can see through what it says on the glass to the shells behind it. Now, not long ago, I had a project on this channel that showed you how to use a cutting machine. I favor my brother's scan and cut, and that's what I like to use. So this video is going to be partly a tutorial on how to set up some cutting files so you can do some cutting of your own. Now it shows me using Canvas Workspace, obviously, because I have a brother, but if you're good with your Cricut, then you can accomplish just about the same thing. If the cutting machine stuff isn't for you and you just want to see the shadow box being made, go ahead, fast forward to the 36-minute mark and pick up there. Alright, I have opened Canvas Workspace, and that little 5x5 project that I had done, the one that says Florida Home and has the little shells and the tiny shadow box, I'm going to repurpose this outline that I already have created in this little heart, and I'm going to be making a bigger shadow box that actually shows off all of the shells that we got from our adventures and from Roxann, in a really nice lighted display box for our East Coast shelling adventure. To get started, I know I'm going to be using these. I'm going to put a rectangle in here. And over here on this side, if you're in properties, or edit rather, see there's properties, there's edit. That's if you're doing rhinestones. There's your layers, there's artboard. All right, but properties and edit and layers are the ones that you're going to use most in Canvas Workspace. Now I know my shadow box is 8 by 10. So I'm going to go 10. I'm taking the aspect ratio off here too. And 8. Now I have an 8 by 10 shape, okay? And I can see whether or not things are going to fit. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to just color it in. There we go. There's kind of a sand color, I guess. Now, from a layer standpoint, of course, this has to be on the very bottom. Got to be behind everything else so I can see how much space I have design-wise for where I'm working. All right, I'm going to move my floor to here and put it there. Actually, I'm going to scoot that over a little bit. Ooh, if you ever get something you didn't want to do, you just hit the undo button. It's up here in this corner. Actually, I'm going to zoom this in a little so I can see a little better too. So I'm taking my little heart, I'm making it a little bit tinier. Gotta grab that little center part. There we go. So roughly here is about where home's at. Right about there. So I'm going to just put that there. And I'm going to have a little phrase over here. And I'm going to have a couple of little stars over here. Alright. Now Canvas Workspace comes with all of these little shapes already in here for you. You don't have to go looking. I'm going to take this and I'm going to make like a mini starfish. And then I'm going to put one here and one here to kind of denote that this is the range from where these shells came from St. Augustine, and then from a little further downstate from the ones that Roxanne gave me. Alright, that needs to be much tinier. Command C. There. Now I have a bunch of them. You want to see how that is with the little cross? You have to hover over that little piece in the center. And I'm just going to take and move these to here, to where the center of the starfish arms are. Yeah, let's see how that looks. Oh, that's pretty cute. Right, have an extra one there. Don't need that. Just delete it. Select it and delete it. Now, I am going to blow this up just a little more to make sure I have these little guys where I want them. Now, for small movements, without having to grab this, you use the arrow keys on your keyboard. And that just lets you, you know, gently move them, nudge them into place, without having to try to grab it and mess with that. I might have moved him a little far. You see, it's trickier with that bounding box around it to see where you've got it. So with your cursor in there, it makes it even harder. So I kind of, those little small movements, I like doing that with my arrow keys. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now, I want all of that selected. Oh, see, I didn't want to do it. So I can come over here, hold the shift key, and click on all the things that you want together. Because what we're going to do is we're going to group this and treat it like one thing. Go into layers, up here in the menu, hit group. Now, if I do this, it's all going to be treated as one thing. How great is that? And see scale-wise where that would have to be. I want it about the same height as the heart. There we go. A little bit bigger. It can't be too tiny because it has to cut those little circles out, right? So I don't want it too small. And this is going to go here, Control C, Control V. That's a copy and a paste to make another one of what I have selected. So there we go. And I know already that my box is 8 by 10. I know that's what my shadow box size is. So I can roughly see how this is going to line out. Great. And then move the heart over here. And now I need a text box. So for balance, I want my text right here. And this color is hideous. I can't keep looking at that. That looks terrible. How about a nice aqua? Ah, that's lovely. Much easier on the eyes. All right, text box. There's a T over here on the menu. You hit that to make a text box. Okay, so you hit the T, then you click. What you type isn't necessarily how it's going to be laid out, but this is where you make changes to your text until you turn it into a shape. By turning it from text into a shape, you're not able to edit it anymore, but you're able to do other things like get outlines around them and all different kinds of stuff. So I want this to say East Coast Shells. So I can keep messing around with this until I get a font that I like. I want something in a handwriting. That's very skinny. Although that is a cute font. I do like that. So I can either make that go here, or I can do one of these and I can make 3 different text boxes. All right, now select this, hold my shift key, select that, and select that. Now, if I make them bigger or smaller, they're all kind of the same sort of size. I haven't grouped them, not yet. I want to put them together here and kind of make this how I want it. Now, this is going on the glass of the shadow box, okay? This is not going to be inside the shadow box. It's going to actually be on the glass, and the shells in the shadow box are going to be behind it. So I don't want to, I mean, this here, all this will be empty space too. This will be empty space. All I'm going to have is an outline, a heart, and a couple of stars, and this text. It looks busy because I've got this shape box here, kind of to help me with my design, just so that I'm keeping it within the glass, so that I'm lining it up right. I hope that makes sense. It's just more or less to, you know, a visual reference for me, if nothing else. Now I'm going to group those. Got them all selected and hit group. The last thing to do to make this look right is, let me zoom this in. You can see all these overlaps, right? I don't want that. I don't want cut marks in the middle of my H or my L. This is going to cut out every single letter unless I transform all of this into a single grouping and a shape or an object rather than text. So the next thing I need to do is go over here to weld. See, you've got remove overlap, subtract, divide, weld.
by going weld, see all those overlap lines? They all disappeared. They're all gone. Now that's just going to cut it out as a single piece. One word. Does that make, hopefully that makes sense. So I didn't have that little weird cut in this O anymore, or that H, or in these L's, or any of that stuff. If I go back and undo it, boom, there they are. They come right back. I'm just going to keep that way. Now, my last design decision. Do I want these to be starfish, or do I want them to be just stars? That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure just yet. But what I am going to do is move them on my mat. Now that I have this, you know what? Let's do this. Let's make a line. Okay. And I can take and get rid of that fill color now. It doesn't need to stay blue or anything like that. I'm still using this as a reference, as a size reference. But take a look at my entire mat, okay? I know my design fits. I know these are just about the right height. So let's see, that's 3/4 of an inch, and that's, I'm gonna put on the aspect ratio and just make this a little bit. I just want it to be 0.75. And this one to be 0.75. 3/4 of an inch high. Just to size-wise see. Yeah, they're the same size as that. Alright, now, when I go to cut this on my cutting machine, I'm going to be using a couple different colors. I want one color to be the Florida. I want another color to be the heart and the stars. And I want a third color to be my writing. And this, I'm now going to get rid of this. Don't need it. So when I go on my mat, I've got a 12 by 12, not an 8 by 10 layout, right? But it doesn't matter where it is on the mat when I cut it out, because I'm going to be cutting it on vinyl and sticking it to the glass. So in order to, you know, cut all this at one time without having to stop and redo things, I'm going to put that there. I'm going to leave this over here. I'm going to put this over here. And these little guys, you know what? I'm going to cut a slightly bigger version of them. So select them, Control C, Control V, and move this one down. And let's make them an inch, a straight up inch tall, a little taller than my heart. Yeah, that actually might work out a little better. I mean, as far as cutting them as the starfish are concerned. Now, watch this. I'm going to I'm going to copy this again, and on these, I'm going to take the circles out. So let's see which group it is I have selected. Ah. Okay. So I can just hide all those circles. See that? They came right out of there. Just by me clicking a little eyeball on and off. And I don't have to go in and like reselect all of them. I just turn them off. So now I will be able to cut 3 different versions of this in whatever color. And I'll be able to decide whether or not I want these, or these when I make this over here, when I put it on the glass. So I can cut my vinyl in a piece to fit here on the mat. I can put another one here on the mat. I can put another one here and another one here. And honestly, let me just group that for a moment. I'm just gonna make them sideways so they fit a little better. There we go. Now, when I arrange my mat, I will have a piece of vinyl here, a piece of vinyl here, a piece right here, and a piece right here. So I'll be able to cut all of this at one time out of different colors just by putting stuff down on the mat where it belongs. Because there's a grid here, you have a reference for doing that. That actually makes your life a lot easier. There's my little heart. So I know that this heart is almost an inch tall, so I'm just gonna take like an 1.5 by 1.5 inch piece of vinyl, and I'm gonna go with it down 3 inches and in an inch to place it here, so that when my cutting machine goes to cut it, see what that's going to do, the cutting machine is going to plot and cut this right where it sees it on the mat. It's not going to move it all and put everything up in one corner. Wherever I've placed this stuff on this cutting mat mock-up here, that's where the machine's going to cut it. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And I like to not have things right up to the edge of the mat if I can help it, just because I know I'm not going to cut into, I tape everything down with masking tape or painter's tape just so that it doesn't move while it's cutting. Not everybody does that, but a lot of Brother Scan and Cut users do that just so that they can cut multiple colors at one time. See, with a Cricut, it wants to cut this layer, then the next layer, then the next layer, then the next layer. And you end up having to do and undo your mat, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, depending on how many colors you're cutting out. I don't want to do that. I want everything to be all cut at one time. It'd be nice and easy. So, yeah, the way I have this laid out now is I can put a piece over here, put my little heart here, or I can even put it up higher if I have to. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's wherever. I just have to make sure that when I go to cut this, that I have vinyl right where I need it to be on the mat in order to cut the shapes. That'll be clear in a few minutes when I set up the cutting mat. And the mission, again, is to put stuff on my mat, my cutting area, in the spaces that it's shown on this. I gotta make sure I get that right where it's set, that, and that. Now, I've decided I'm going to make the Florida outline in black, the text in teal, and the heart and stars in white. I don't have a particularly big place, so I don't have room to spread all of this out on my desk or anything like that. So John cut me a board that I can put here on the bed, and I just store it behind my bedroom door when I'm not working with it. There's my mat, my brother mat, a little cutting machine, and then 3 different colors and 3 different kinds of vinyl, some masking tape, scissors, and a little brayer. So what I'm going to do is cut out pieces of this with this and place it on here in the same spots where it shows on the computer screen that we just looked at, so that this looks like what my computer screen behind me does. Sluggo the Wonder Dog over there. Hey, buddy. Oh, good boy. Now, let's start out with the white. And you can use whatever kind of vinyl you want, whatever you have, whatever you like. This is just plain white. All right, the square, or the stars occupy a space that's about 3 by 4 roughly inches. So I'm basically opening up. I like to cut through the vinyl side, not the paper side with my trimmer. And that sticks because there's a magnet, so it helps hold things down when it's closed. So if this occupies roughly a 3 by 4 space, then yeah, I'll just make this just a little bit bigger than 3 by 4. So cut your strip first.
then go for size. So this will go roughly here for the stars. I like this kind that comes in the tube. It's so much easier. Right, now do I have a piece that's already cut that'll work? I do, so that's what I'm gonna grab. These come in, I think they're like 3 or 4 feet usually long. I like to keep the tags, or the tubes. It just makes storing it so much easier. So that needs to be roughly a 4x5 piece. Let's see, this is already 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So, yep, just trim this down and put that into position next. Keep this little piece for cutting out something small later. And then I need a bigger piece to fit my Florida. It occupies a space that's approximately 8 inches by 9 inches. It would probably be easier to get it in here cutting through the paper side, but I really would rather cut through the vinyl side and make sure that cut is nice and clean. So I fight with it for a second, get it through here. So it's 8 by 9, roughly. So take this down to 9, but also when I put this on here, all of this space doesn't need to be here, right? Because I'm cutting the shape of Florida. So this is kind of dead space. So I am going to trim some of that just out of the way. And since it's got this weird wrinkle right here, that's a great spot to kind of do that. And I can keep these pieces for cutting other smaller things later, like keychains, because I make quite a few of those too. Oh yeah, what color am I making the heart? I think I'm making the heart out of the white. And I only need just like a little small piece of this because it's only like 1 inch. All right. Cutting. And I mean, I don't have to be this fussy about it, but I don't want to waste a bunch of the vinyl either. It's expensive if you waste it, so. Although not this one really in particular. This particular brand, this Crafter's Square brand, you can get this at the Dollar General or Dollar Tree, one of the two of them. So it's actually relatively inexpensive compared to Cricut. Best way to get any of this stuff, of course, is on sale for holidays or BOGOs. Now, we're done with this. We're done with these. I've already pulled the top of the mat off. There's a clear protective film that keeps your sticky mat protected. I just put that off to the side while I'm working. I'm going to take one more look at where everything is on the mat and position everything and tape it down.
Remember, this is the layout that's going to be on that mat when everything cuts. So what I'm doing here is just putting the vinyl down where things are supposed to be cut, and by that I can get everything all cut at one time, save myself the extra steps, not waste any vinyl, and just sort of speed my process along.
There we go. Now everything is down on the mat where it needs to be in order to properly cut. The next thing I do, and this is not a must, you don't have to do this, but I kind of recommend it. I like to hold down everything with little pieces of painter's tape. It peels off the mat easily, and it helps keep all of your pieces
just stuck down. Now with a brother, you can't cover over all this stuff around the outside edge of the mat. The machine reads these little coated marks. So you kind of just have to, and I don't want too much tape up into the piece either, right? Because it's going to cut somewhere close to this. So I don't want to do that. I got a little more fudge room over there. But all I want to do is make sure if anything gets wonky, that this thing is going to cut out properly and not drag and make a big mess and ruin all my vinyl and all my hard work. And doing this with the painter's tape is an optional step. It just helps make sure that nothing moves around while your machine is in motion and actually cutting stuff. And I just like to do it. So I want to load it into my machine so that I can cut it, but I have to transfer it over there first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to File, and I'm going to hit Export FCM file. Anything hidden where you've taken the eyeball off, it's telling you, if you hide it, I can't cut it. That's okay. I don't want you to cut it. That's why I hid it. So I want to transfer this machine via the internet. I'm not exporting it as a file. See, I'm transferring it over physically to the machine over Wi-Fi. Your brother Scan and Cut machine needs to have a Wi-Fi connection in order to properly talk to your computer and make things nice and easy. All right, so I hit that. I've already got my machine powered on. And now it's telling me that the machine is ready to download the file from the internet. So what this does is it puts it up in the cloud storage in a special spot just for my machine. And then my machine knows that special spot, goes looking for it there. So when it tells me it's ready, then it's time to go over to the machine and load the map. All right, I'm going to hit the load map button first. And then retrieve data from the cloud. And there is my little arrangement right there. I'm going to tell it okay and select cut. Now again, you can do that with your finger or with the stylus, however you feel like is easier. And when I go to cut, I make sure that I have something called half cut on. Half cut is on. That means it's going to cut through the vinyl and not cut through the sticker paper that it's sticking to. Everything else, I let it go automatically because this has what's called an auto sense blade, and it's going to actually go through and check and see what the thickness is and stuff. That's what the test button is for. Now, of course, I've cut all of these colors with no problem from my machine in the past. I'm just going to tell it to start. And here it goes. Your machine will tell you how long these cuts will take. This was about 4 minutes, so I sped up a lot of this just so we don't have to watch it in real time. So it's doing its thing. It's already got the lettering cut out, and it's doing the stars right now. And you can see this thing says it's only got 1 minute left to go. All total, this has only taken, well, 4 minutes. And look how much time that saved me from having to set up 3 or 4 different Cricut mats to just feed them in the order the machine wanted them. By being able to lay your stuff out on your mat that way, that's going to save you a ton of time, get all your cuts done at one time. And around the holidays, that's super helpful. And it's done. Okay. So it tells me we're done. You say, okay. Yeah, it likes that little stylus sometimes instead of my fingertip. And then I'm going to hit this button to eject it. And now, let me see if I can get this over in the light where you can see. You can see that that's cut all out. A little harder on the camera to see the heart. You can see the edge of the Florida there. And then, yeah, the white is the hardest to see it on, honestly. But you can just barely make those little stars out. So now that we've got all of that stuff cut out, we're going to do what's called weeding, removing the excess vinyl. And then we'll go ahead and attach it to the glass on the shadow box. Oh, but that does mean that I do have to take all of this stuff off the mat. Some people like to weed on their mat, especially Cricut folks. I don't like to do that with mine.
I take everything off to weed it so that I can bend and fold things and get my little tool underneath there to just make it a little easier. You do less damage to your vinyl and to your mat by taking it off the mat to weed it.
I've cut everything out. I may make another one of these. I may make this file available as a download. So I will go ahead and export this machine. Actually, can I see it? I might be able to save it. So it is going to save this as an FCM, fancy cutting machine. Now if I export it, it'll save it as a CJ or CWPRJ file or something like that. But for right now, I want just fancy cutting machine because that's easy to open when I go to work with this again. Florida outline, East Coast shell, and just let it do that. And now you can see up here at the top that has changed. Once I saved it, I'm off to the table to do what's called weeding. Weeding is the process of removing the excess vinyl off of your design so that the only thing that's left on that background sticker paper is the design itself. Some of your vinyls will weed easier than others. Foil is always the trickiest, this metallic foily stuff, because sometimes it doesn't get a perfect cut, and also you can damage the surface really easily with your pick. So you have to move slowly and carefully when you're doing that, especially with text. All total, this process takes me about 15 to 20 minutes, and I've condensed it down into just over 1 or 2 minutes here in the video and sped this up for you. We've got our design all made, all cut out, and all weeded on our vinyl. Now we have to create the shadow box itself. For this next step, we're going to be drilling a hole in the side of the shadow box. So you're going to want to go ahead and grab yourself a drill and some drill bits. And this, I think I ordered this off of Temu. I really can't remember. But it's a little strip of LEDs, and it has a light switch on it. So I'm going to drill a hole through my box that I can pull that through and into so I can light up the inside of the shadow box. Oop, I got the cord stuck on the drill clip. So you see me putting a drill bit in here. This one is actually a little small. And I go ahead and I drill the hole in the side of the box. But then after I get done with that, I discover that that little strip doesn't end up fitting through it. I think what I had there was a 1/4 inch bit. And what I really wanted to use instead was the 5/16 inch bit. And that made a much better hole for me to actually get that through there. Yeah, see, as I'm going to try to feed that through, I mean, I could pull it and kind of stretch on this stuff a little bit, but I really didn't want to do that because I don't know how fragile the wiring inside between the little LEDs actually is. So it made more sense just to go ahead and get the bigger bit and make the hole a little bit bigger so that I wouldn't have to fight with it. I swapped my 1/4 inch bit out for a 5/16, and then I went ahead and just made the hole a little bit bigger since I already had the hole all the way through it. Just needed to be bored out a little more just to make more space so that that LED strip could fit through there. It's got like a silicone rubbery coating on it, which made it a little thicker than I thought it was going to be. And as I was pushing the drill through, I ended up loosening up one of the little slats on the inside of the box, so I will go ahead and glue that back in place as well, just to kind of fix the box back up so that side piece isn't loose. And yes, I want to have the lights at the top of the box. See where that little hanger is? That's where I'm lining everything up so that it's at the top of the box there. And after drilling a hole through the box, of course, and you know, shadow boxes have a little bit of a film on the glass sometimes, usually anyway, when you get them from the store, you know, from transportation and sitting in warehouses and all that other good stuff. So between that and the drilling, the inside of the box was filthy, and I had to give it a quick clean up just to get all the junk out of there. Now I've got the lights fished through, I'm going to go ahead and just attach that slat that got knocked loose in there with some hot glue just to put it back where it belongs. You can see the cord though already is gone through that as well as the side of the box. So it's already fished through there, and I'm just going to glue that back together. I'm also going to go ahead now that I've got that glued, and I think I'm going to plug this in just so I can kind of see the lighten it a little bit bit better. Sorry about that circle. That's from my ring light up above the desk. There's the lights themselves through the USB. You can see they're pretty bright actually, and they're just a teensy little bit longer than they are inside than the inside of the shadow boxes. Does that make sense? So your shadow box is 8 by 10. That strip is probably 12 inches long. So I'm gonna end up centering it on the long top side. I put a little black mark in the center of my strip at the 6-inch point there, and I just nicked the side so that I don't have a big line across my lights. Then I'm going to go ahead, find the center point of the box, and I'm going to line up my little black line there with the center point of the inside of the shadow box. There you see my little lineup mark and everything glued into the top of the box. You'll also notice that there's the wire run down the side, and there's a couple of clips there. They came with the light, and they're meant to hold the wire sort of off to the side and out of the way so they don't impede your design. Some of my big shells were a little kind of too big for this shadow box. I had to check the fit on things a little bit, and it turned out that hawkwing conch there in the bottom was a teensy little bit thick for the box. But I went ahead and made it work because I did not want to cut that beautiful shell, and it did end up squeezing in there. Now the fun part, fitting all these shells in here like a jigsaw puzzle and tacking them to each other and to the sides of the box. They are not actually glued to the back because I didn't want them toward the back. I wanted them right up to the front so that the light would get behind them a little bit. So I've gone ahead and sped this process up. This probably took me 45 minutes to an hour. I kept moving things around, trying things, retrying things, and ended up with quite a lot of the shells like this. Then at the very end, I put a few on the back of the shadow box as well. That's where I put some of the sea beans and some of the smaller stuff, and that gave me an effect of light shining on them while still getting behind some of those other bigger shells that you see there toward the front of the box. This process was a lot of fun, but it took a lot of time, so I've gone ahead and 20x'd the speed on this just so that we get through this a little quicker. Here you see me adding a couple of things to the back, that lion's paw piece, that big sea bean. I think I put a corrugate jewel box in there and a few other pieces too. All in all, it made for a nice composition, and I'm pleased with how it came out. And here we see what the box looks like before I put the vinyl decoration on the glass, just with the light and the shells and whatnot in it. And I think it looks beautiful the way that light is making that stuff glow from behind. Oh, it came out so cool. Really love it. Once your beautiful shadow box is assembled, the next step is, of course, to take those designs that we spent time on our Brother Scan and Cut making and apply them to the front to finish the box's look. Well, I have weeded my designs and got the excess peeled off there now. So now what I have to do is use transfer tape to get stuff off of this backing and onto the front of the frame, but in a neat manner without any wrinkles or anything like that. With little stuff, you can just peel it off and stick it. That's easy enough. But when you start talking about text or bigger shapes, to just peel something off of this vinyl and then try with your hands to stick it down is extremely difficult. And since you already went through the trouble of doing the computer work and the cutting and the weeding, it doesn't make a lot of sense to ruin it when you get to this late stage. So what we have here is transfer tape. Now this happens to be a smaller roll because it's meant for a smaller machine, but any transfer tape really will work. It doesn't matter. And one big piece of transfer tape should do it, because you can use it more than once. It's not a one and done kind of a thing. So I just need a piece big enough for this. And as you can see, it's kind of see-through, so I don't need to get a real giant piece of it. Just big enough. And these little grid lines on here are nice for helping you to cut it without a trimmer.
but also for when you go to put your design on. Now that you see also, this wants to curl, right? Because all this stuff is kept in rolls. So you either can take a Cricut mat. I don't want to use my good brother mat, my cutting mat for this, but you could use a Cricut mat to stick this down to, and then apply the transfer tape and go from there. Or you can tape this down to your work surface and do it that way, whichever you're more comfortable with. In this instance, tape should be just fine. But if I was doing something that had a lot of detail, maybe, I might use the Cricut mat, just saying. I'm one of those few people that has a brother machine, but I keep Cricut mats around. I have a Cricut machine as well that my mom gave me, but I fight with it more than I can get anything done with it, so I tend to do all my cutting and designing on the brother because of the design flexibility it gives me. Okay, so there, that's held down now. And transfer tape, again, is like your vinyl. If you want to get it kind of started, you just sort of zing up one of the corners, and then you can get your tool in there and separate them. There it goes. I'm just peeling up the edge. And see those little gray lines? I don't know if it's showing on camera or not, but it will when I stick this down to this white background. You can see those little white lines in there. And I know I cut that in a straight line when I cut it with the trimmer, so. Now all I'm gonna do is just start rubbing this. I'm gonna grab this from the back and I'm gonna gently pull while I'm rubbing this transfer tape onto the design. And that just ensures I'm gonna get a nice adhesion to the tape. See, what the transfer tape does is it wants to overpower the connection between the vinyl and its backing, but not be so sticky that it won't release it onto whatever you're putting your design on. So transfer tape is actually quite a nifty bit of science. I know people have done it with packing tape in the past. I personally have not had a good result with that. All right, now also, I'm just not gonna rub that onto the mat or anything like that. Set this aside to put your tape back onto in a moment. And then here, I'm going to just lift up this whole thing. Done with the interior. I think I want to put a couple more things in, but you know, we'll see how it goes. Some of them you'll notice are kind of like fixed in place. Others of them are loose, like that one. And some of these little guys and the bubble, and just kind of thought it would be fun. Now, lay this down. I know because I measured prior when I put the light in, there's a little teeny black mark in there on the top of that light. And I also know, according to the package, that this is 9.5 inches wide. So I'm going to find my center point on here and then line that up with the middle, sort of. See, remember, I have to have room for the words too. I could, I suppose, put these down at the same time. not sure that I really want to. Okay, because this, see, is 9.5 inches. So my transfer tape is exactly the width of pretty much my opening here. So I technically could. I could put this on my text and lay this all down at one time. But I think I'd rather get the Florida in position first. Kind of see where I am from there. Boy, having that much extra transfer tape sure is tricky. Let's try putting it down this way first. Yeah, and that's the other thing is I've got the tape on there and it's peeling the tape up too. All right, not a big deal. I will make it work. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Okay. Now I'm also going to leave some of the backing on here. And my tape, of course, I have those nice straight edges. Turn my box this way so I can see it a little better. Want it kicked more over to the side so there's more room for the text. So that's how I'm going to approach this. And see, when I start pulling it, the design comes right off the backing. Boy, that's being tricky. I'm gonna have to put a little bit of paper on the back of that just to make my life easier. There. That'll stop it from sticking so much in the middle. Alright, that way I can work from this side. Got one corner lined up at the bottom on one of these little gray lines. There. That's gonna lay on nicely now. And I'm just gonna rub that with my finger. You can use your little tool as well. And all I'm doing is just like I did. I'm just kind of running there. So now my Florida is on my glass. Just gonna give it a little go over here to make sure it's stuck well to the glass, but it should be. And then pull your transfer tape. See this 45-degree angle with a bigger design? That's kind of especially important so you don't pull your design back off your glass. Work slow and steady. Ta-da. There we go. For a second. Now I've got the state of Florida on here, and I have room to put my words. I didn't quite leave myself enough room for the stars though. I forgot about them. I really did. Now since the stars are small, I'm just gonna lift those off like that, and I'm going to put one here. And I'm glad I did all three sizes and actually did the smaller ones. At first I thought they'd be too tiny, but I think they look great now. Well, that's roughly where St. Augustine is, right around there. And then my heart, again, don't need the transfer tape for a small one. And right about here. That would be clear water up there, so I'm about there. My little map doesn't have Tampa Bay, but that's all right. I know where it is. Okay, so now for the fun part, we're going to put on the text. Oh, geez. I got a piece of the tape stuck to the front of this from what was holding the other thing down to the back of my work surface. Didn't even see that was on there, but just gently peel that. You don't want to scratch your glass. Let's see how it looks so far. Oh yeah, that looks cool. Super cool. Now, I have a little bit of space over here. I don't want to necessarily hide all my shells, but you can see around the text, you know, there's a lot of gaps. So, yep, I think I'll put that just a little closer to this edge and up here a little bit. I'm going to actually cut this down, and I'm going to cut down a piece of that transfer tape to this width. And again, there's that grid, and I can see just through there, so I don't need to worry about it. I can cut a fairly straight line without, you know, without being all cockeyed and crooked. All right, now back to the transfer tape. I'm gonna move the box out of the way just for a moment. That is looking super duper cool. Boy, this is some tricky stuff. Now, you can use transfer tape over and over and over again, too. It doesn't have to be one time and done. That'd actually get crazy expensive if you did that. So keep the backing paper that it came off of, and you'll be able to use it again. Now, in my case, is that little East Coast Shellers piece gonna fit? It sure will. In this case, I'm looking to make my transfer tape right about the same size as what I'm working on. So I'm just cutting this. And that extra backing that I stuck down there, that's fine, won't hurt a thing. And then I can just set this back in the roll or set it aside if I'm going to be using it more again soon. And I'll just keep these two little sets of stars. I might use them for something else. And since this has already been peeled one time, it'll be a little easier to get it started. And this is a small enough piece where I'm not going to worry so much about taping it down. Curls, no big deal, I can hold it. It wasn't as unwieldy as the Florida shape. So you see I got the backing still stuck to the top piece here. And again, just gonna gently push that on there. And foil tape looks different
I don't know if you can see that. It looks like it's got all kinds of bubbles and everything all over it. Foil tape's just like that when you foil vinyl. I'm sorry, foil vinyl. Oh, gotta rub it a little harder. Some vinyl will cling very easily to this stuff, to the transfer tape, but foil vinyl is a little weird. And also do the 45 peel for this stuff too. And I'm freezing it here just to give you a little pro tip. Peeling off at a 45-degree angle, yes, but also peel the backing off instead of trying to peel the transfer tape off the backing. That'll make things a lot easier. Oh, see, one of those letters still wants to stay stuck to the backing. It's those S's, man. I want to stay on there, a little background. There we go. Now, just gonna have to line up. Where do I want it? I think that looks pretty good right about there. I'm just using this edge, this straight edge here, and the box. Kind of line them up. And you won't have to push this one down hard on the glass because the foil doesn't even like to stick to this transfer tape. It should easily peel right off of there. Ta-da! There we go. Have it. East Coast shells. We can see the shells through there. So there we have it. Let me take this off here. Oh, it'd probably be easier if I turn the light on too. So that the light can get on it. There we go. East Coast shells, my Florida shape. My little stars and heart on there. And as I'm looking at it, I see like there's a couple of spaces in the background that could kind of use a few extra shells, and I definitely have more. So I'm going to go ahead, put those in there. Then we're going to bring this out into the living room. All right, we're going to take one more look at what the shadow box looked like before we actually applied the vinyl lettering to the outside of it. Just take one more special look at this, just lit up and pretty. And here we have the after. Oh my goodness, I love how this came out. It's so beautiful. Oh, that teal coloring on the lettering and the outline and the light hitting all of these shells. And look at the way it made that lion's paw in there glow. Oh, that's fabulous. Absolutely love it. And since everything here at my place is beachy themed, this East Coast shell box fits in perfect. This came out so cool, and I really like that I have a special keepsake from our East Coast trip and from getting together with Roxann and her family. We had a good time, even though St. Augustine might not have been the best shelling we've ever seen. That's okay, because we made up for it in goodies and gifts to each other with shells and making some new shell friends. Well, I hope you enjoyed this crafty creative project that we made as our little lighted shadow box keepsake from going to St. Augustine. Stay tuned, because there's going to be some more crafting coming up. We got to do something with all those fabulous shells from the 10K area. So that's going to be coming up next. And we will have a little bit of shelling here and there thrown in the mix as well. We haven't been doing quite as much shelling as I would like recently, because, well, we've been trying. The weather hasn't been cooperating. It has rained probably every day for a month straight at this point. And because of all the rain that we've had, Of course, that's given me a chance to spend some time in my craft room. Fun stuff. Not only do we have a keepsake from the 10K coming as well, but some really cool Halloween decorations that you're going to get a big kick out of. Like this fabulous light up table centerpiece. Ooh! So stay tuned because there's lots more fun stuff coming up in the next few weeks. So thank you so much for joining us this week. Make sure you come back next week where we're going to be right here from the craft room once again. Watch up here at the end for links to not only how to make shell flowers, which will be important in a couple of weeks, but to the shell chasing series of videos as well, so you can get all kinds of beachy and crafty goodness. And remember, if you want to have some goodies to make things with, then you know what you need to do. Get out there and go shelling!